I'm Katie, and I'm here at the ASC Conference with Sam. And Sam has been talking to us about how to navigate change, particularly for insights businesses. But before we get started, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, I'm Sam Kiani. I founded a company called Inspired World because I feel like there's nothing more important than that feeling of being inspired. And I think in a way I describe myself as actually a human software engineer, because what I realised in the work that I do on organisational and culture change in organisations and also coaching individuals really is our human software that we need to remove the bugs, upgrade so that we can be our magical best.
I love that analogy, and I love how you spoke with us today about kind of a little bit of science, how our brain works. And you talked to us about when we get really put under pressure that we flip our lid. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what it means for us?
Absolutely. So I really love models. The whole concept of models is that they're not 100% accurate, but they're helpful. So there's the model of the brain, where you can think about the brain in three parts. The bit that does all the automatic stuff like breathing and heart rate, the bit that's like your emotions, and then all this executive function, where our highest intellect lives. So our ability to handle pressure, think creatively, problem solve. And so, there's this thing with our nervous system. When we get put under pressure, when we feel afraid, the electrical activity in our brain actually kind of ceases in this new part that has all the executive function. So the problem with that is we often think about fear as being the big thing. You know, someone comes at us and tries to attack us, that's when we're afraid. But actually, I think particularly when we're in an environment that is very unclear and things are changing, and of course AI has become like an existential threat. Well, it's coming for our job. Might be coming for a whole industry. What's going to happen? It means that we're in a state of fear all of the time. So this connection with our higher functions becomes a bit looser, and it does affect our ability to think clearly. And we know this because when we get in an argument and we are activated, we will typically say things we regret or do things we regret. And that's a great illustration of what I'm talking about here, that unfortunately when we get under pressure, we just don't think as well.
Yeah. It's so helpful to know, because I think a lot of high performers in particular put a lot of pressure on themselves and are constantly pushing ourselves to just work harder, and we go deeper into the stress. But I think what you were saying earlier this morning was that when we recognize that there's a lot of, this is a physical response, it's how your brain's working. Sometimes you have to do the opposite of what you think you should do to get out of that moment. And I think you had some really great tips for us of how to tackle that. You want to share those?
Totally. One thing I guess I'll just say first about stress, it's really funny because the way our brain works, or even like the way our mind works, is we tend to make true what we believe. So if you are someone who believes that stress is bad and stress is going to kill us, then you will have a physical effect in your body that mirrors what you believe. But you think about Olympians and the amount of pressure they are under, they have the belief that stress makes me perform better. Stress makes me stronger. And so the research, the science actually shows that happens. So this is one of the strategies that we can employ, is we need to recognize where are we actually at? Because I know that, okay, I would love to have that Olympian mindset. Yes! Stress is making me stronger.
Me too.
But actually, when I recognise physiologically what's happening with me, that's what I've really learnt to recognise. What are my own red flags? So if, for example, so my tells are, if I'm really struggling to eat, like I love food, but if I can't eat, that's a sign that I'm really under pressure, because our body prioritises survival over digestion. Okay? So if my hands are shaky, that's also a really good sign from my nervous system that I'm under stress. So I might be trying to pretend that I'm great, I'm not stressed. But if I'm pushing away the people around me, if I can't eat and my hands are shaky, I need to really lean into those practices I shared with you. So take a break, go out and move into nature, focus on eating good, high-quality food, which for me means I need to stop working and make something healthy. Connect. The other technique that helps us is when we find ourselves genuinely feeling stressed, feeling a bit in freeze mode, it's about deciding to take action, shrinking down the horizon to be like, not do I have to figure out what's happening in my industry over the next 5 years, but actually what am I going to do today? Or what can I do in the next month that's going to move me forward? Because that thing of shrinking the horizon and taking an action, it puts you back in control in the driver's seat of your car. And again, we are always going to feel better when we feel like we're driving our own car rather than waiting someone else being in control of us.
Yeah, control the controllables.
Control the controllables, exactly.
So flipping to another model, you asked us all in the room about, in essence, how we respond to change and where we feel most comfortable, whether that's in certainty or in chaos.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that model, and in particular, what it means for leaders trying to build organizations today and bringing those different types of people into their teams?
That's a great question. So I came across that model in a leadership development program where we had different speakers that came and or experts that come and led particular topics. Now, Dr. David Wilkinson, who is chair of the Oxford Review, he ran the session on uncertainty and agility. Because the truth is that in the environment we're in today, as leaders, we need to be able to lead in these very uncertain, very complex adaptive times. And that is a different skill set. When we're leading in quite stable times, we can employ different techniques. So one of the things that can help us be most effective is having clarity over what's the situation we're dealing with. What skills and capabilities do I have in my organisation? So realising that to handle uncertainty, we need to have a good diversity of people, those that are great at keeping things stable, also those that can dwell in chaos and uncertainty and actually start to experiment and be able to handle risk. You know, like Bjorn. He's not scared to fail, and he's a great and truly successful entrepreneur. And we were just talking before this podcast, and you know, if out of 17 companies that you create, I mean, how amazing that you can create 17 companies. But if 10 of those fail, this is the mindset that I'm talking about, that we're not safe, like we feel safe to fail, we're not scared to make mistakes. And it's really important to recognise, do we have people who think like that in our organisation? Because they're going to help us move forward. So the context in which it's most helpful to use that is actually get your team together and then reflect together and recognise, are we well distributed across all the quadrants? Or actually, are we all crazy chaos monkeys? Because actually we might need a bit of stability.
Yeah.
You see?
Definitely need those steady hands in those times.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really interesting. I think a lot of what we've spoken about today gives us some good thinking for how we as individuals can understand our response to change and how we can think about that in our organization. I think those are things that we need to think about to be fit for change, which is the theme of today's conference.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for presenting today and for speaking with me. And for anyone else who's interested in learning more, please watch some of the other videos we'll be sharing and tune into our film sessions as well. Thanks.
Thanks. It's been so great to be part of the conference. It really has been so interesting.
Yeah.
So thank you.